Hey, it's Jay, and welcome back to Lavender Living, a series where I upload a video every day in celebration of Pride Month. Today I'm going to be talking about writing asexual characters. A lot of this also goes for aro characters, but since I'm not on the aromantic spectrum, but I am on the asexual spectrum, I'm just going to be talking about aces. I have a feeling in the future I'll go more in depth on this, but this is just a baseline, a few quick tips on if you're not an asexual person and you want to write an asexual character. Hints that if you don't want to be, you can always be explicit and have your character be like, oh, I'm asexual, I don't really experience that kind of attraction and stuff. But if you don't want to be explicit and you just want to kind of hint at it, then you can have like characters ward off any sexual advances or like flirting that heavily implies sexual attraction and that implies like you're gonna end up doing the do. I'm 20, I'm such a child. But like some asexual people like kissing, others don't. I'm gonna have several videos in the cards that pop up with books that were have asexual characters that were written really well, so read those and you can kind of see how those authors did it. And then later I'm going to be recommending a nonfiction book about asexuality that's real good. You can have characters be indifferent to sex, because people can be sex positive, sex neutral or indifferent, or grossed out by sex. This is the word. I can't think of it. You can have an ace flag mentioned, or you can like mention the colors black, gray, white, and purple. My favorite. You can just have that be like a little thing like, oh, Bill walked into Jane's room and saw a multicolored flag on the wall with black, gray, white, and purple and stuff. Like asexual people will know what that means. And asexual people will know what that means. You could have some jokes in there. Ask your ace friends what jokes are. Like, we like unicorns and dragons, and you can have like Bill ask Martha out on a date and be like, hey, you want to grab a coffee sometime? And Martha can be like, yeah, I prefer eating cake or something. So some good books or shows that have, or some shows and books that have good asexual representation are BoJack Horseman. There's a character named Todd who is asexual. I have him on my shelf. He's out of reach. But he's precious. He is my bean. And there's like several episodes that include asexual conventions, which were really funny, but also really educational. We Awaken, which I did a review on earlier this month, and there was good description of ace rep and some really sweet scenes between the female relationship. Let's Talk About Love, another book I did a review on. It was pretty much not the whole plot, but like the main plot line was Alice being asexual and having this crush on an allisexual boy or man, and learning, like trying to figure out how to deal with that. Tosh Hart's Tolstoy, asexuality was a side plot. I talked about this in my 5 asexual recommendation book video, and it was really sweet. It talked about asexuality and it had an acephobe, so it showed that aspect of being this asexual. And it's important to know that asexual people can still have other types of attraction. I think there were 5 main types of attraction. There's like romantic, sexual, aesthetic, sensual, and something else. Aces can still have other types of attraction. Like an ace can be like, oh, that person has a nice face, they're really pretty. Or, oh, I can see how they can be considered hot, but I'm not into it. And asexuals can have romantic relationships, obviously. Some good places that you can do research is the AVEN website, that's Asexuality Visibility Education Network. The founder is David J. I talked about him in my Myths and Misconceptions about Asexuality video. I will put the link down in the description so you can read up all about asexuality and the spectrum there. You can ask other aspec people, like I had a friend, Hey Mason, ask me about it, and you can ask other friends. There are several booktubers that are ace, or aspec, so you could ask them, or if you have any friends IRL, then you could ask them. Read some other stories like the ones I mentioned, or do some research and find some asexual books, but it's hard to find good asexuality books because there's so few asexual books out there, and then the ones that are good are few and far between. You can watch David J interviews, like I believe he did a TED Talk. He was on The Talk. That video made me so mad. But David J, again, the founder of Avon, he talks about it really well. He's pretty eloquent and it's very educational. And then there's a nonfiction book, I'll put it up here, called The Invisible Orientation: An Introduction to Asexuality. I haven't read all of it. I've read some of it. I need to get it from the library again. But it's a really good introduction to asexuality if you're someone who's not asexual. So some of the things you should not do in writing an asexual character include not making them emotionless, because asexual people can still have emotions. Like, we still cry, we can still be happy, we can still get mad at people, but don't make them unfeeling, and don't make them psychopaths, or what people would call psychopaths. Like, don't make them really monotone and not caring about anyone, like House. And again, like House, don't deny that asexuality is a thing. There's an episode where there's this couple and they said that they were both asexual. Okay, cool. But then House is like, no, it's a thing. Their libido is low, blah blah blah. And it turns out that the man, his libido was low, and then the woman was just pretending that she was asexual because she was too scared to bring up wanting to have sex to her husband, who said he was asexual even though his libido was low, and it was fucking stupid. Was it Sherlock, or was it, I forget which adaptation it was of Sherlock Holmes, but there was one where it was the one with Benedict Cumberbatch where he doesn't have like a lot of relationships, or at least from what I understand. I haven't watched it yet, but from what I've seen on Tumblr and stuff, he doesn't have relationships and he doesn't seem interested in having relationships or sex, and he's like this really brooding, dark, I don't care about anything kind of character, and that's not good rep for asexual people, or people are saying, oh, he's a prude, or oh, he's asexual. It's not good. Don't be afraid to explain to your reader what asexuality is. Make sure that when you're in the editing process that you put it through, have a sensitivity reader read it, whether they're your friends or not. You can get someone, like you can, if you're self-publishing, you can hire a sensitivity reader and you can have them see if like the way you present an asexual was good and if you described it well. If you're being traditionally published, then you can ask your publishers like, hey, can I get a sensitivity reader for this? And most of the time they will. But make sure you have either asexual friends or sensitivity readers that can like vouch for definitions of asexuality, approve what you've written for that character. But authors need to stop making it seem like asexuals have no emotions. They're still human beings, and unless there's something like there's a mental illness that makes them numb to the world around them, then they're still gonna have emotions. And asexuals, especially demisexuals, but asexuals, you know they will love you for you because they're not in it just for the sex, or they're not in it for the sex at all. They love you as a person, and they'll love you unconditionally. And a bad book that, it was also a bad book, but it also had bad rep for asexuals, was Vanilla. I give it 2 stars. It demonized the asexual in the eyes of the allosexual, because there were 2 guys that were dating. They've been dating for like years. And then one of them just starts to discover that he's not really into sex. He doesn't really care about that. And the other boy starts to get really mad at him and be like, oh, are you not gay? Oh, so you didn't really love me and stuff. Started low-key gaslighting him. And it was as demonizing asexual, and it wasn't good. So don't do that. Again, in the future, I'll probably make another video with like good ways to describe asexuals, or how to like more specifics on how to write them and stuff, but this is just an overview. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the little bell so you can get notified whenever I upload. I upload every Wednesday except for during June Pride Month, where I upload a video every day in my series Lavender Living. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.